With me today is Fleur Marks, and Fleur spent 20 years as a high-performing leader in some of Australia's most demanding corporate environments. She was driven, capable, and by every external measure successful, until her body said otherwise. What followed was a life-threatening health crisis that landed her, as she describes it, in the waiting room of death. Fleur survived, but more than that, she woke up. And she spent the last decade rebuilding how she lives, leads, and defines success. Drawing on neuroscience, behavioral science, and hard-won lived experience, she now helps high performers achieve excellence without it costing them everything that matters. And her new book, The Overachiever's Reset, is now out on the shelves, and it's a blueprint she wishes that she had earlier. And I have a feeling that this conversation is going to resonate with a lot of you listening. So, Fleur, welcome to Leading You.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction.
Thank you for joining us, and congrats on your book.
Thank you. It's exciting times. It's just out there now into the world.
Yeah, that's so exciting. It's like, you know, going through that whole process and then your baby's out there.
Seeing it in the airport, surreal, in the bookstores,
Yeah.
you know, you spend time in your own little world on it for a while. And now,
Totally.
seeing people picking it up off the shelf is almost overwhelming.
Yeah, that's so good. All right. So, Fleur, before we get into the reset, I'd love for you to paint a picture for us of who you were at the height of your high-performing life and what did success look and feel like from the inside?
Sure. So on the outside, I was probably someone who presented like I had it all and I had it all together and fabulous wardrobe, of course, but also I was at the top of my game in my job. I was, I had the perfect family, a boy and a girl, a loving relationship, the nice house, holidays away, all of the things that you sort of tick off as your definition of success. And I was in demand, always valued any room I walked into. I was solving problems. I was respected for what I brought into any room. Yet on the inside, I was drowning. I was overwhelmed, overloaded, running on empty, thing to thing, not fully present to my life at all, achieving great things, but never really taking the moment, or just once I achieved that thing, I'd be on to the next thing. And so I was spinning plates. Perhaps your listeners can recognize some of this, but I was the queen of busy. If I didn't have a full diary, wouldn't know what to do with myself. And on the inside, I was sort of waking up in the middle of the night going, how can I keep this all up? And then also, how can I make it look effortless? Because I thought other people were, and I thought I was failing by watching others seeming to make it look so easy. And I was, literally paddling, trying to keep it all together. And so I think the outside story and the inside story were quite different. And I think there was, in the middle of the night, the 4 a.m. sort of wake up where you start to ruminate, the only quiet moment I really had. I was really just starting to question, the world or what I'd set myself up to actually achieve. I love what I did. I absolutely love what I did. There was no doubt that I loved it and was kind of addicted to it. Yet also there was a part of me that was going, whoa, this is, I can't keep this up.
Yeah. Oh my God. So much expectation that you put on your own shoulders.
Very high, unrelenting standards. They never, the bar was always here. And it was what I thought that was the price of ambition, success. That I thought that was, in order to get ahead, I needed to sacrifice myself, be everything to everyone, to go push through, go beyond the norm to be extraordinary. And so I thought that was the deal. Constantly making deals with myself about it as well, that I just needed to get the next thing done or achieved.
Yeah. Wow. So you describe waking up ending up in the waiting room of death. Can you take us back to that moment? Did this sort of come about through you realizing the complete misalignment that was going on for you? But what was actually happening, and what did it force you to face?
Yeah, I would like to say that my mind was in tune, but my body spoke first.
Mm,
As I described, I was in this, push, push, push mode,
yeah.
and my body was actually shouting, and I was choosing to ignore any signs or any symptoms or, fatigue I couldn't overcome, weekends where I'd think I'd be back on track by the Monday and was still sitting in this deep fatigue I couldn't exit. I couldn't seem to get over. I had brain fog. My decision clarity was gone. If I was honest, I had massive headaches. Whenever I just seemed to get every sickness. I was always run down.
Mm,
And what happened was I was actually running a marathon in Bordeaux and France in fancy dress, drinking wine, as you do through any good marathon, where you're running and drinking wine in fancy dress, 52 vineyards. And it was about the 22K mark that I started to cough blood. And at the time, I thought it was red wine. And when I finished the race, I couldn't quite bounce back. And it was leading up to Christmas. So I thought, well, I'll just push through, get what I need done, and I'll take my rest over the Christmas break. And then I'll get back on track. I had too much pressure and demand on me to really stop and collect what was going on. And so I kept going and got to Christmas, was really tired all over Christmas, couldn't quite bounce back. Then, of course, the new year comes around. I've got to keep showing up. Couldn't work out what was wrong with me. Australia Day came and our next door neighbour said, I think you need to see a doctor. Like, I don't think I had this cough that I couldn't get rid of since the marathon. And it was blood in my mouth. But I just felt I was too busy to go and get checked out. I had too much to do. I didn't have time to sit in the doctor's room. And so by the time I did make it to the hospital and did get properly checked out, my lungs lit up like a Christmas tree, and I had either lymphoma, tuberculosis, or sarcoidosis, which was what I had, which is a rare autoimmune disease. No known cause, no known cure. And in my case, it was multi-organ. So it was in my lymph nodes. So it was presenting in my airways. So they had to take out the lymph nodes out of my passageway. I had open chest surgery just to get so I could actually breathe again. And then found myself pretty much in the fight to try and get things under control. I left it so long that my body was in complete crisis. And because there's no known cure, they try and bomb you with everything they can to try and get it under control. So I underwent 17 rounds of chemo before it even started to settle. And obviously, I had to stop work. So I went from, being the one, with big teams, being in demand, all the things, to my dog, my doctor, and the postman, and barely being able to stand up to kiss my kids goodnight. So it was a real, sit on my bum moment where I had pushed through too far and
yeah.
was not going to be able to get out of it. And so I call it the waiting room of death, because most people, I've been in this waiting room now for 15 years, and most people either get better or they unfortunately get sick and even sicker and die. And I've had the, I guess, privilege of being in this waiting room, still sick, still stuck in a sick body, but actually had the opportunity to figure out, well, how can I rebuild my life,
Mm,
knowing that I'm not going to get any better ever. I'm stuck in this. I also had to battle cancer as a part of my journey over the last 8 years ago. And then I just got cancer back again, breast cancer back again at Christmas time. So knowing that this is my body that I've got to operate in, how do I rebuild my life whilst being stuck in this waiting room of death, but also this stuck in this body that's ultimately I'm never going to be able to feel better again. So how do I do that? How do I do life and live fully despite it all?
oh, wow. Fleur, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so sorry that you've had to go through all of this.
Oh, yes. Well, I've
It
been lucky to be still
sucks.
here.
Yeah,
It sucks.
absolutely. Look at you
Mm,
go.
mm,
And, because I want to sit in that for a moment, because I've had my own version of that stop when I was
mm.
diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma cancer in
I saw that.
COVID.
Mm,
And I so hear what you're saying, and that I don't have time to sit in doctor surgeries pre.
the amount of hours.
Yeah. And now You don't have
That's what we
time
do.
not to sit in doctor
That's right.
surgery. Like, it's such a massive turnaround.
It is.
But that moment where, and obviously this is not identical, everyone has their own journey, but that
Of
moment where
course.
your body just goes, no, I'm done, no
Enough.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sends you something that you now have to deal with and stop
Mm,
and hopefully recalibrate. And that wake up call,
mm,
you know, that's the hard part, and it's the aftermath of it. It's
mm.
all of the stuff that you have to go through and the challenges and
Losing control, right?
losing
Losing
control.
control
Yeah.
of, I was, dare I say, a control freak, right? I'd
Yeah.
organized my life to perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and and then suddenly to be out of control of my own body,
Yeah.
and everything that was happening around me, was, the first kind of wake up call I had was I can't really control I thought I could control my body, but I couldn't.
No,
So
exactly.
it was amazing.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I went through a period of like anger at my body. It's like, how can you
Mm.
let me down like this? Like
I went
it's
more through shame and
heavy.
failure,
Yeah.
actually. I
Mm,
felt like well, at first I was in denial. I couldn't quite accept my reality. I thought that
mm,
I'd be able to perform my way out of this as well.
yeah.
That I'd be able to be a high performing sick person and achieve my way, even despite there being no cure. I thought I could
Mm,
figure it out. Not being arrogant, but I just that's how I'd got sort of through my whole life, was to push through and achieve the extraordinary. So I thought, well, why not do this with an illness, right? And then the other part for me was just really that acceptance that actually, whether, you can't say what the cause is. I do know that stress and probably the hours and the way I didn't really take care of myself through those high level performance years, would have definitely contributed. I can't say it didn't have a role. And I think so there was a bit of sense of failure and shame that I
mm,
had ended up here
mm.
or stuck in this body the way it is. Yet it's
Yeah,
incredible, my body. The fact that it's still here is quite remarkable.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So tell us about the overachiever's cycle, where
Sure.
self-worth gets tied to achievement and external validation. How does that cycle start, and why is it so hard for smart driven people to notice it?
Yeah, I think at first for me, I thought, as I said, I could achieve my way out of this. I thought green juices, a number of people that told me just have green juices,
Yeah.
do integrate, and nothing wrong with integrated medicine, totally believe in it. But actually, for me, what I realized in the overachiever cycle was that juices weren't going to save me. It was the inner work that was going to save me. And so, what I looked at when I started to think about, well, how can I, knowing my reality and accepting that, how can I actually make the shifts despite not knowing how long I'm here to have the life that I want, but also ambition hadn't left me. So I needed to figure out a better way. And what I realized was that the cycle is really around the beliefs that drive you to be a certain way, and then the patterns of behavior that are the result of those beliefs, and then the costs that sit within that. So it's kind of like a cycle that goes around and around, and we often don't even know we're on it. And so for me, it was understanding what caused me to have such a drive for ambition and to want to, that I found that my worth was attached to my, outcomes or what I achieved. And so I had to really sit with that and understand, where did that come from? What had shaped me to be that way, that belief
Mm,
system? And unless I worked on that belief or those beliefs, because there was multiple beliefs that were shaping me, and unless I made those shifts and worked on the belief, then I wouldn't really be able to get off this cycle, this treadmill, or what I call the tightrope. And so the first one for me was that I'd learned very early on that good work or doing well got praised and got valued and made
yeah.
me feel loved. And I had, my parents, when I achieved something, of course, praised me and made me feel very proud, and they were proud of me. But then also I had a Mrs. Crabtree when I was 11 who, gave gold stars, 1 gold star a week for excellent homework. So of course, early on, I wanted to get the gold stars. And then that gold star became the next promotion, the next thing, right? So I was on this sort of, unless I achieved, I wasn't or had really great outcomes, I wasn't really worthy, or valued, or loved, I guess, in some sense.
Mm.
And so then I had to look at what behaviors were driving the belief. And for me, it was this need to push through, to go beyond the norm of what normal would be expected of me.
Mm.
And to never really question some of the behaviors that I would, please or perfect. Perfection was a big driver for me, that I was constantly making everything just so. And that behavior meant I would, get involved with a presentation late at night that someone had prepared, and I'd just make it that 1% better, not realizing that that was actually, undermining the person that I was correcting their presentation. But also for me, it just felt like that sense of everything being that extra extraordinary. And so I had to look at the behaviors that would drive me, and then I had to sit with the costs and accept that, was it really worth it? Is it really worth those costs? And so that's the cycle. And I think for many high performers, we don't realize we're even on it. I never questioned my commitment or drive or sacrifice at any point. It just was, I thought that was the deal that I had made with myself, that in order to get ahead, I needed to go beyond. And so I think for a lot of high performers, we almost feel like we're invincible, or we kind of do this inner deal where we negotiate with ourselves that we'll rest later, or we'll, take care of those things that really matter to us once this thing is done. And so, and then society praises us for it, right? I mean, if you look at social media, there are so many people out there looking like it's so effortless and easy to have it all and do it all. And so the bar is very high out there. So society makes us think it's possible when it's really not, to do it all at the same time. So I think there's sort of this fallacy out there around what it looks like to achieve the extraordinary, or to perform at a peak level, and not really taking the time to step back and look at what cycle we're on and how we're setting ourselves up ultimately to achieve at the cost of ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And you're so right. Like, we don't know that we're stuck in this cycle until something stops us, because it becomes our normal. Like, that was just your normal way of being
Totally.
and living. That was your life.
Yeah.
And and because we're living like that, we never take time out to think, is this how I want to be? Is this working for me? Am I actually being the best version of me? Am I looking after my health? Is this sustainable? Asking all those really
Exactly.
important questions. We never elevate our thoughts to that level, going, what am I doing?
Exactly. And even being intentional about it, look at our diary, even with some coaching clients, like, it's okay to put a 10-minute break like
Yeah.
before, or 4 meetings a day is enough. Like,
Yeah.
if you're the senior leader, you need to operate at your optimal. So it's just allowing ourselves to step back, even the beginning of a week, and take the moment to actually, how am I setting myself up for the week ahead? It seems so simple, yet when we're on the trap or on that treadmill, we can't seem to. We think slowing down means we're going to get behind,
Yep.
or slow, or saying we need a 10-minute break or taking a moment might feel like we're going to fail in some way. So I think
Mm.
and I totally get it. I totally get if you're
Yeah.
feeling that as a listener, like that you are the I am you, and you're not alone in this. It's just really catching that narrative and the thoughts that are pushing you to achieve unsustainably. What's
Yeah.
the narrative that you're saying to yourself? And that could be our imposter or our inner critic or whoever, but there's a
Yeah.
voice usually inside us that's pushing.
Yeah. So is that like the main thing that you want women to take away from our chat today? And you will talk about your book in a moment, because so many women listening to this who I work with, as you say, they're capable, they're driven, they're you,
They're smart, really
but they're
smart.
keeping it all together on the outside while knowing it's not sustainable. Like that,
Mm.
there is that knowing, and they're ignoring signs from their body. So What is the
Mm.
one thing that you'd want them to hear from you today?
I think it's probably a question to ask themselves. So, how different, and this was a question I sat with musing for some time. You might not get an immediate answer, but how different would your life be if you truly believed you were enough, had done
Mm.
enough, and had enough? What would be different right now in this moment? And even if you ask yourself that question and sit with it for a moment, you might notice a shift or a little bit of lightness and spaciousness, because you're enough as you are right now. You don't need to do more, is not the answer, really. Doing more is not the answer. Holding it all together is not the answer. It's really focusing in on what matters most to you and believing that as you are enough.
I love that question too. And for some people who haven't thought about that, they might think, oh my God, that's such a hard question. It's
It
like,
is.
yeah. Ah.
Took me months to answer that one. So don't feel like you need to answer it immediately, but just play with it when you're
Mm,
driving in the car or have a quiet moment in the wee hours of the night. How different would my life be if I truly believed I am enough and had done enough?
yeah.
What would be different?
Yeah. Absolutely. Great question. So you've rebuilt how you live and lead, and you've defined a new success for yourself, which I totally admire what you're doing, particularly with the challenges that you're going through right now. Like, that is a superpower mindset, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So what does that look like now for you? Do you give
Mm,
yourself, grace, space? And what
mm.
do you want people to believe is possible for them after they've read The
Sure.
Overachievers Reset?
Well, for me, I've created a system, my own system, and you will have your own system that works for you. But I've worked it out. I've had a bit of time over the last 10 years to really figure out what works for me. And the first thing is I've figured out what success my way actually looks like. And so that's being really focused on what matters most to me, letting go of all the noise and that to-do list that never seems to end, choosing conscious joy and redefining success on my terms. The other thing for me is really about how to lead with impact. So understanding that every day is an opportunity for me to create impact, but also act with intention. So I'm a magnificent work in progress. So I often have to reset most days, being a natural workaholic. So it's actually being able to go, okay, what does impact look like for me today, this week, this month, this year, and actually disciplining myself to focus on that and turning down the dial on the rest of the noise in my life.
Mm,
And the last thing is figuring out how to achieve excellence without exhaustion, which was where I sort of first started after the mindset stuff. And that
mm,
was really around making sure that I take care of me first. So to be self-full, to be selfless. And so, I practice self-care. It's a part of what I do now. It's not an optional extra every day.
mm, mm,
And I've got really clear boundaries around how to maintain my energy and navigate chronic illness that hasn't left me, and then really just figuring out what's sustainable and going, what, rest is actually strategic, and if I don't rest, I don't keep perspective or clarity, and I just react rather than respond as my best me. So I think my system, which I've put in the book very
mm,
openly and clearly, and everyone needs to create their own one. But what does that look like for me is very clear. And I'm despite having just gone through cancer again, I'm the happiest I've ever been. I am content and present to my life as it is, and I wobble all the time.
mm,
Yet I know even just running through the last month of radiation that there's something in me that allowed me to shift. And I've chosen, I talk about sequins over superwoman in the book. And this last few months of navigating cancer whilst launching a book was not the plan for me. And so I asked for help. I developed a sequin squad of cheerleaders to get me through it rather than trying to be superwoman and do it all and carry the load alone. I actually asked for others to come and be with me on this journey, and I don't feel alone in that. And so
mm.
choosing to shine bright rather than be superwoman all the time.
Oh, I love that so much. And it's just, I just, all of all of what you just said is just incredible, and I think so many people can learn so much from what you have shared today. And I'll be
Right.
sharing the link for where people can get hold of your book and get in contact with you.
Thank you.
And I really want to, well, wish you well on your journey. And you are absolutely the picture of joy and, of someone who's shining bright, like you're fabulous, mirror ball in your book.
Disco ball.
Yeah, yeah. And you're an example of what can come out of what and who can come out of adversity. It's not over when you might have to face into a point like that. It's what you choose to do after that makes the biggest difference and really defines who you are. So I take my hat off to you, and I wish you so well for your future
Thank you.
journey.
Thank you, Julie. And there's a great quote by Viktor E. Frankl. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it that matters. And, we all have a choice, right? No matter how big or small our struggles are, we have a choice on how we choose to show up for it, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being part of Leading You.
Thank you.
Thanks.